The what and why of the Common Core, College and Career Readiness for Every Student. Math, Session 1. This session gives background on the Common Core State Standards Mathematics. This document was developed and produced by the Maryland State Department of Education through federal funds. The Towson University Teaching Modules Development Team was led by Debbie Gartland, Project Director. Also on the team were Roberta Stroh-Snyder, Val Sharp, Michelle Pascoe, Lenore Chapman, Jessica Kirchen, Jessica Moore, Rebecca Malloy, and Darlene Fuster. What do you know about the Common Core State Standards? Why were they developed? What are the Common Core State Standards for Mathematics, known as CCSSM? Why are the standards important? How will the standards impact the teaching of mathematics? These are the session objectives. After this session, you will be able to identify the steps in the development of the Common Core State Standards, identify the Common Core State Standards for Mathematics, and discuss the impact of the CCSSM for teachers and students in Maryland. This slide provides data on the number of individuals not prepared for college and employment according to college instructors and employers. Maryland's College and Career Ready Commitment. In 1950, 60% of jobs were classified as unskilled, attainable by young people with high school diplomas or less. Today, less than 20% of jobs are considered to be unskilled. The fastest growing and best paying jobs have been those that require at least some college. According to the Center for Education and the Workforce, 69% of jobs in Maryland will require post-secondary education by 2020. What are the implications of the data presented here? What is the current state of mathematics practice and performance in the United States, in the United States compared to other nations, in Maryland compared to other states, in your school district compared to other districts in Maryland? What is TIMSS? The Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study, TIMSS, compares math and science achievement of 4th and 8th graders internationally. TIMSS is closely linked to the curricula of the participating countries, providing an indication of the degree to which students have learned concepts in mathematics and science they have encountered in school. To date, more than 50 countries have participated. Why is CCSSM important? Consider the data. The Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study, TIMSS, provides reliable and timely data on the mathematics and science achievement of United States 4th and 8th grade students compared to that of students in other countries. TIMSS data have been collected in 1995, 1999, 2003, and 2007. In 2011, more than 60 countries and jurisdictions, including the United States, participated in TIMSS. More than 20,000 students in more than 1,000 schools across the United States took the assessment in spring 2011, joining almost 500,000 other students around the world taking part in TIMSS. The 2007 TIMSS is the fourth administration since 1995 of this international comparison. Developed and implemented at the international level by the International Association for the Evaluation of Educational Achievement, an international organization of national research institutions and governmental research agencies. TIMSS is used to measure over time the mathematics and science knowledge and skills of 4th and 8th graders. This report focuses on the performance of U.S. students relative to that of their peers in other countries in 2007, and on changes in mathematics and science achievement since 1995. 36 countries or educational jurisdictions participated at grade 4 in 2007, while 48 participated at grade 8. This report also describes additional details about the achievement of United States student subpopulations. All differences described in this report are statistically significant at the 0.05 level. No statistical adjustments to account for multiple comparisons were used. Note, this is 8th grade math data. The National Assessment of Educational Progress, NAEP, is the largest nationally representative and continuing assessment of what America's students know and can do in various subject areas. Assessments are conducted periodically in mathematics, reading, science, writing, the arts, civics, economics, geography, and U.S. history. This slide depicts the 4th grade NAEP math results. The Common Core State Standards Initiative. Beginning in the spring of 2009, governors and state commissioners of education from 48 states, 2 territories, and the District of Columbia committed to developing a Common Core of state K-12 English Language Arts, ELA, and mathematics standards. The Common Core State Standards Initiative is a state-led effort coordinated by the National Governors Association, NGA, and the Council of Chief State School Officers, CCSSO. Why Common Core State Standards? The state standards prior to the CCSSM were determined by individual states. These varied from state to state, as did the assessments of the standards. This slide describes a difference between the CCSSM and many of the state standards. The Common Core differed in that its expectations emphasize higher-level thinking and conceptual understanding over memorization and procedures. What do you know about the CCSS? Watch this engaging 3-minute video about the CCSS. Watch this video from the Hunt Institute on how the mathematics standards were developed. Why CCSS mathematics? The CCSSM resemble the standards of high-achieving countries and exhibit the key features of coherence, rigor, and focus. States with standards that resemble the CCSSM did better on average on the 2009 NAEP. What is NCTM? The National Council for Teachers of Mathematics is a leader in the field of mathematics education. It is the largest organization of math educators and has influenced math reform in the United States. What are the NCTM standards? Many states have followed principles and standards outlined in Principles and Standards for School Mathematics 2000 by the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics for teaching mathematics from pre-kindergarten through 12th grade. The 6 principles: equity, curriculum, teaching, learning, assessment, and technology are the basic guidelines for mathematics instruction. The 10 standards describe what students should learn in mathematics in 4 grade bands: pre-K to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 8, and 9 to 12. These NCTM standards comprise 5 content standards: numbers and operations, algebra, geometry, measurement, data analysis and probability, and 5 process standards: problem solving, reasoning, and proof, communication, connections, and representation. NCTM versus CCSSM. Under the NCTM, it outlines highly specific standards to be taught at each grade level. An example: list 4 expectations under the numbers and operations standards for students in grades 3 to 5. CCSSM includes grade-specific standards in K-8. In high school, it is more organized by courses. An example: the 4th grade Common Core includes 14 standards related to the learning of fractions. This is information on the comparison of NCTM and CCSS. Consider the differences between the two. CCSS outlines highly specific standards at each grade level. NCTM describes grade bands with fewer skills. NCTM standards drove curriculum, textbooks, and assessments in the last couple decades. CCSS is likely to have that impact now. NEA supports the Common Core. NEA, the largest professional organization in the United States that represents current, retired, and prospective educators, believes the Common Core state standards have the potential to provide access to a complete and challenging education for all children. What are the CCSS for mathematics? The Common Core state standards provide teachers with a framework of necessary mathematics skills across grades K to 12, which vary considerably from previous mathematics standards. What is the goal of the CCSSM? To provide students with a strong background on the fundamentals of mathematics. CCSSM concentrates on a clear set of math skills and concepts. Students will learn concepts in a more organized way both during the school year and across grades. The standards encourage students to solve real-world problems. The Common Core State Standards in Mathematics document provides an in-depth explanation of what should be taught at each grade level. In the elementary grades K-5, the goal of the Common Core is to provide students with a strong background on the fundamentals of mathematics. The Common Core is a collection of standards for mathematical practice and mathematical content. The content standards provide teachers with an outline of what should be taught. At each grade level, the Common Core is divided into domain areas. On the following slide, we will see the progressions. The CCSS domain progression is displayed on this slide. Note how the domains progress throughout the grade levels. The states have articulated shifts in ELA and in mathematics in partnership with the authors of the core in order to have a framework through which to address the necessary changes in instruction demanded by the Common Core. Maryland stresses the importance of the 3 shifts: focus, coherence, and rigor. Focus. The standards call for a greater focus in mathematics. Rather than racing to cover topics in a mile-wide, inch-deep curriculum, the standards require us to significantly narrow and deepen the way time and energy is spent in the math classroom. We focus deeply on the major work of each grade so that students can gain strong foundations. solid conceptual understanding, a high degree of procedural skill and fluency, and the ability to apply the math they know to solve problems inside and outside the math classroom. Coherence involves thinking across grades. The standards are designed around coherent progressions from grade to grade. Learning is carefully connected across grades so that students can build new understanding on new foundations built in previous years. Each standard is not a new event, but an extension of previous learning. Linking to major topics. Instead of allowing additional or supporting topics to detract from the focus of the grade, these concepts serve the grade level focus. For example, instead of data displays as an end in themselves, they are an opportunity to do grade level word problems. It is important to note that the coherence is the meat of the Common Core. Rather than teaching in silos or teaching with a checklist of skills, teachers must teach with coherence in mind, not just across grades, but within. The following slide further demonstrates thinking across grades and linking within grades. Coherence. Think across grades and link to major topics within grades. Carefully connect the learning within and across grades so that students can build new understanding on foundations built in previous years. Begin with solid conceptual understanding of core content and build on it. Each standard is not a new event, but an extension of previous learning. Achieve further explains coherence as using the shift of focus and coherence as a means to make sense of the math. Coherence speaks to the idea that math does not consist of a list of isolated topics. The standards themselves, and therefore any resulting curriculum and instruction, should build on major concepts within a given school year, as well as major concepts from previous school years. Typically, current math curriculum spends as much as 25% of the instructional school year on reviewing and reteaching previous grade level expectations, not as an extension, but rather as a reteaching because many students have very little command of critical concepts. Just as there are two ways to look at focus, there are two elements of coherence: the coherence across grades and the coherence that links topics to the major work of the grade. Rigor. Conceptual understanding. The standards call for conceptual understanding of key concepts, such as place value and ratios. Students must be able to access concepts from a number of perspectives so that they are able to see math as more than a set of mnemonics or discrete procedures. Procedural skill and fluency. The standards call for speed and accuracy in calculation. Students are given opportunities to practice core functions such as single-digit multiplication so that they have access to more complex concepts and procedures. Application. The standards call for students to use math flexibly for applications in problem-solving contexts. In content areas outside of math, particularly science, students are given the opportunity to use math to make meaning of and access content. More thoughts about rigor. It is a challenge to move from procedural understanding to conceptual. In the new PARCC test, students need to explain their reasoning and thinking. When they fully understand concepts, not just procedures, learning is deeper and more solid. Maryland adopted the Common Core state standards in English Language Arts and Mathematics in June 2010 as part of the state's third wave of reform. These internationally benchmarked standards are the overarching learning expectations that are guiding Maryland's development of the new Common Core state curriculum. This slide describes the structure of the Maryland College and Career Readiness Standards. Maryland's CCSSM is referred to as MCCRS, Maryland College and Career Ready Standards. Note the framework includes domains, clusters, standards, and essential skills and knowledge. Domains are the coherent groupings of content. The clusters are groups of related standards. The standards define what students should understand and be able to do. Essential skills and knowledge provide language to help teachers develop common understandings and valuable insights into what a student must understand and be able to do to demonstrate proficiency with each standard. This is an example from the 3rd grade MCCRS. A domain might look like operations and algebraic thinking. A cluster may say, for that domain, represent and solve problems involving multiplication and division. Standard 3 refers to 3rd grade, OA, operations and algebraic thinking, and point 1, the first standard. That standard is interpret products of whole numbers. Interpret 5 times 7 as the total number of objects in 5 groups of 7 objects each. For example, describe a context in which a total number of objects can be expressed as 5 times 7. Essential skills and knowledge. Knowledge that multiplication is the process of repeated addition arrays and/or equal groups. The 8 mathematical practices are integrated in math instruction in all grade levels in the MCCRS. These practices describe processes and proficiencies for learners. They are based on NCTM process standards of problem solving, reasoning and proof, communication, representation, and connections, and of the strands of mathematical proficiency specified in the National Research Council's report, Adding It Up. Adaptive reasoning, strategic competence, conceptual understanding, comprehension of mathematical concepts, operations, and relations, procedural fluency, skill in carrying out procedures flexibly, accurately, efficiently, and appropriately, and productive disposition, habitual inclination to see mathematics as sensible, useful, and worthwhile, coupled with a belief in diligence and one's own efficacy. The standards are: make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. Reason abstractly and quantitatively. Construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others. Model with mathematics. Use appropriate tools strategically. Attend to precision. Look for and make use of structure. Look for and express regularity in repeated reasoning. View the Teaching Channel video for fractions 3 to 4 and/or high school algebra and identify components of the documents CCSS Math Session 1 Instructional Practice Guides for K-8 and high school. Assessing the CCSSM in Maryland with PARCC. Maryland is a governing state in the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Career, PARCC, a consortium of states working to develop an assessment system aligned with the Common Core state standards in English language arts and mathematics. The PARCC assessments will track student progress over time and will report status on a trajectory toward college and career readiness. The assessments will be computer-based and will utilize a mix of constructed response items, performance-based tasks, and computer-enhanced, computer-scored items to measure higher-order skills such as critical thinking, communications, and problem-solving. This slide provides information regarding the timeline for the development and implementation of the CCSS. Maryland's involvement in the CCSSM and PARCC. In May 2010, Maryland adopted the Common Core state standards. By 2014 to 2015, Maryland implemented the Maryland College and Career Readiness Standards, MCCRS, Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers, PARCC, assessments, and new teacher and principal evaluation systems. Maryland is a governing state in PARCC, a group of states involved in the development of a common assessment system using Race to the Top funds. How well do you know the facts? As you consider each statement on the following slides, try to determine myths from facts. Myth or fact? Adopting common standards means bringing all state standards down to the lowest common denominator. This means that states with high standards are actually taking a step backwards by adopting the Common Core. This is a myth. The fact is, the standards are designed to build upon the most advanced current thinking about preparing all students for success in college, career, and life. This will result in moving even the best state standards to the next level. In fact, since this work began, there has been an explicit agreement that no state would lower its standards. The standards were informed by the best in the country, the highest international standards, and evidence and expertise about educational outcomes. We need college and career-ready standards because even in high-performing states, students are graduating and passing all the required tests, but still need remediation in their post-secondary work. Myth or fact? The standards only include skills and do not address the importance of content knowledge. This is a myth. The fact is, the standards recognize that both content and skills are important. The mathematics standards lay a solid foundation in whole numbers, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, fractions, and decimals. Taken together, these elements support a student's ability to learn and apply more demanding math concepts and procedures. The middle school and high school standards call on students to practice applying mathematical ways of thinking to real-world issues and challenges. They prepare students to think and reason mathematically. The standards set a rigorous definition of college and career readiness, not by piling topic upon topic, but by demanding that students develop a depth of understanding and ability to apply mathematics to novel situations, as college students and employees regularly do. Myth or fact? The standards are not based on research or evidence. This is a myth. The fact is, the standards have made careful use of a large and growing body of evidence. The evidence base includes scholarly research, surveys on what skills are required of students entering college and workforce training programs, assessment data identifying college and career-ready performance, and comparisons to standards from high-performing states and nations. In mathematics, the standards draw on conclusions from the Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study, TIMSS, and other studies of high-performing countries that found the traditional U.S. mathematics curriculum needed to become substantially more coherent and focused in order to improve student achievement, addressing the problem of a curriculum that is a mile wide and an inch deep. Myth or fact? The standards tell teachers what to teach. This is a myth. The fact is, teachers know best about what works in the classroom. That is why these standards establish what students need to learn but do not dictate how teachers should teach. Instead, schools and teachers will decide how best to help students reach the standards. Myth or fact, these standards amount to a national curriculum for our schools. This is a myth. The fact is, the Common Core is not a curriculum. It is a clear set of shared goals and expectations for what knowledge and skills will help our students succeed. Local teachers, principals, superintendents, and others will decide how the standards are to be met. Teachers will continue to devise lesson plans and tailor instruction to the individual needs of the students in their classroom. Okay, now you are the expert. Why were the CCSS developed? What are shifts in mathematics according to the CCSSM? What is the impact of the CCSSM on assessment of student performance? Are you ready to learn about the resources available for teachers and parents? See Session 2. In addition to the sources within this PowerPoint, visit the resources page of this module for a comprehensive bibliography of readings, websites, and materials.